Hey, what's going on, everybody? Steve here with Raiken Profit over at RaikenProfit.com, coming back to you with another video. And today I am with Mike. He's on all social media, One Up FBA. You can follow him on TikTok, Instagram. He has a Facebook group. I'll link that up down below. Mike is an Amazon seller and he's crushing it right now. He's actually in his warehouse, as you can see. And today we're going to be talking about wholesale on Amazon. Now, Mike has a pretty interesting way that he's able to source products, list products, ship products, and make money on Amazon. And this is a topic I'm really interested in. So when I tell you guys we have a good show in line, I mean, I have so many questions prepared right now. So we are going to pick Mike's brain till he's got nothing left in it. What's going on, dude?
I'm good, Raiken. How you been?
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. So can you share with everybody maybe what type of results you're getting, how long you've been in business, what exactly do you do?
Absolutely. As of now, a lot of the content I post is the Amazon FBA wholesale business model, but that's not actually how all of this kind of started. I have watched tons of your videos. I remember I was in college trying to figure out anything from reselling to literally anything I could get, garage sales, thrift stores. What could I find to flip on eBay and make a profit? And that slowly turned into what new items. I noticed new items on eBay sold a little quicker and I could make one listing with, once I had 2 or 3 quantity of something, it was nice. I noticed it became a little more passive. You make one listing, you can sell the product, more than once. And I started kind of going down that rabbit hole of, Amazon is all like new product. You could do a lot of new sales and how would I get these products? But do you want me to talk on some background of kind of how long I've been in?
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
Sure. Okay, so currently 25. When I came out of high school, so right around 18, I was dead set on mechanical engineering. So I was like 100%, I want to go into mechanical engineering. I went to a state level college, did that for about a year. And after about a year, I kind of noticed I loved mechanical engineering, but almost as a hobby, not so much as I didn't want to do it at like a corporate level for a very long time. And I started getting really interested in this e-commerce space. I just thought there was so much potential. So I started garage sailing on the weekend. I think that's how a lot of people start. They start the treasure hunt, right? They're going to garage sales and thrift stores, and I'm like, what else can I sell? So I started like binge watching your content when I was in college, looking at like, can I sell cameras? Can I sell old video games and vintage items? And I got really into clothing, selling like vintage clothes and all that. Got into more high ticket, like buying cell phones from the college students who just wanted college money to party on the weekends. So I would tell all my friends, hey, if you guys are selling your iPhones, your MacBooks, and you're getting a new one, sell it to me. I got cash. And they probably didn't really know I was, I'm flipping it. They're over here blowing their money and I'm over here making $50, $100 on these phones. And so right then and there, I think a lot of people go down that path where it's like, then you're hooked. Then you're like, how far can I push this? How many more items could I sell? Fast forward to today, it slowly transitioned into newer product, doing more retail arbitrage type of stuff. Clearance aisles, Sam's Club or Costco, just finding items I could sell on eBay. And that quickly led me down the rabbit hole of, what's this Amazon stuff everybody's talking about? How can I sell these items on Amazon? And seeing these videos about people had more data. It was like, I'm like, what? You can figure out how many sales a month something is selling on Amazon? It blew my mind coming from eBay, because eBay, I just check the sold listings. I see maybe one of them sells every day. And I'm like, hey, that's good. I know it'll sell. And you look on Amazon, you see something 400 sales a month with a tool like, AZ Insight or Jungle Scout. There's a bunch, Seller Amp. There's so many tools to get these estimates. But now I work in the wholesale space. So basically what I do is all of the product I sell is your name brands that everybody's familiar with. Your Colgate. A lot of my videos I like to show like Colgate, Metamucil, even like Twizzlers. Sometimes we get candy. And once you get familiar with Amazon and you have these tools like Jungle Scout, Seller Amp, you're kind of blown away at, wow, I didn't know a pack of Twizzlers sells 500 times every month. So it's like, where can I get these items for lower? And calculate my fees on Amazon and try to make that margin in there. And that's where I'm at. I've just I work with all USA vendors, or there's a bunch of names: vendor, distributor, supplier. It's kind of, some people kind of use those terms in exchange, like they switch up the terms, but these are all similar companies to the ones selling to Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Lowe's. It's basically these massive distributors that have thousands and thousands of SKUs in their catalog, and they're partnering up with like your Walmarts, your Targets. And a lot of people don't know, everyday people like us with a business license can actually open these wholesale accounts and get access to these spreadsheets and to these catalogs. So it wasn't an overnight thing. It was like this whole progression, sliding over into Amazon with the new product. When I started, I dabbled a little bit into private label. That didn't do very well. So I was like, I need to just sell what people are already buying. And then, and then it's like, where do you get it at a price that I can make money on? And I'm like, wait, how does Walmart and Target get it? I'm like, if they're making money on it, where can I buy from where they buy from? If that makes sense. So
yeah, it's always been like a mystery for me, like up until a couple of years ago. I'm like, how does everybody get all these products? They're all doing the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And once you kind of get the hang of, it's kind of a rinse and repeat. And I always recommend the best way to like find these companies is looking on the back of a product. I just got something here. It's this is like a contact solution product. And in the very bottom, it'll say, I know you guys can't read it, but it'll say manufactured by, and it has a support number. And once I figured out that you can call the support numbers and ask them, hey, can I set up a wholesale account directly with you guys? Or could you let me know if there's any authorized suppliers in my area? Really cool thing about that is not only if they give you some authorized suppliers, is that supplier will have the product in your hand, but it also will give you access to, that's just one of their huge catalog of items.
Awesome, man. Well, let me jump in really quickly because I have a ton of questions for you and I want to ask them in order because I know everyone watching right now is getting excited. I'm certainly getting excited about this because this is a world that is really new to me. It really is. So let me ask you first, is this your full-time job? Like, is this your full-time living? Are you making a full-time living doing this wholesale on Amazon?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very fortunate. It's turned into my full-time job. And it also helps employ, I have 2 full-time workers that help with product prep, unloading trucks and loading up pallets. So very thankful for that. But yeah, it has absolutely turned into a full-time income. Full-time could mean something different for everybody, but basically it allows me to live comfortably and with a little extra to do the things that you want to do, like being able to travel once in a while and maybe have a couple toys, dirt bike, whatever.
Yeah.
I've been thankful that this has worked out, but it's definitely been a long journey.
So one of the things that I'm really curious about is, in order to start a wholesale business, do you need any certificates, licenses, or anything special in order to be able to start this business and start contacting distributors and putting together wholesale deals?
Yeah, so what's pretty standard is when you are reaching out to a wholesale supplier or distributor, you will go through an application process. So they will email over, a document for you to fill out. Now, some common information that will be required to complete that document is 3 main things. You will need a business entity, and I typically recommend an LLC just because it separates your personal liability from your business liabilities. And it's a good entry level business entity to start. And you can apply for that on pretty easily, like websites such as Inkfile, or I'm trying to think of the other one, but just Google LLC, like startup or something on Google. It'll pull up Inkfile and some of those other websites. So LLC is going to be the first one, because businesses like to work with other businesses more so than just, if I just said, hey, this is Mike, they're saying Mike from where? So LLC, and then you would go, once you have your LLC established, you need an EIN number. And what the EIN number essentially is basically like a social security number for your business entity. And you basically go to the irs.gov website, you apply for an EIN, and you will enter your LLC information on there, and you can register, and they will provide you an EIN number. And then the third document that you will typically need is, it kind of gets confusing because there's so many names for the same thing. It's called like wholesale permit, resale license, resale permit. It's essentially all the same. What it is a tax exempt document. Because we're a business and we are not the end consumer of the product, that is more than likely the last document you will need to complete these applications. And those permits will have a number on them, and that number is what you use to complete the application. It'll say, send us a copy of your resale certificate, wholesale permit. It's kind of all the same. It is the same document, just different names. And then they'll have a blank to fill out the number that's on that document and your EIN number for your LLC.
Nice, Mike. That's awesome. So yeah, guys, get yourself all those things to get started with Wholesale. Now, one of the things I'm curious about, and this is what's held me back from starting Wholesale, going direct to distributors, is I've heard that, as you were saying, these distributors, they want to work with other businesses, and I don't have a warehouse. I don't have a commercial address that I can receive shipments to my business. So what advice would you give to people who want to start adding Wholesale to their business model, but they don't have a commercial address, they don't have a warehouse?
Sure. There's a couple different approaches. Some suppliers don't dive in too much to where the product is going. And in some situations, they will actually just schedule the shipment to your house. Let's say if you have like any type of garage or a driveway, you can take a delivery. You would just want to let the supplier know after you pay for the product and the freight that you will need an accommodated lift gate. And a lift gate is typically a $50 to $60 additional fee. That is basically just a smaller truck. You usually won't have like a whole semi show up at, a whole semi in a residential area. It'll be a smaller truck with one of those kind of like the Home Depot. If you order like a fridge, they got those up and down gates in the back. That's how your pallet would get dropped off, and then they can wheel it up into, you can unpack it into your house or your garage. And then the other thing is, that's a big concern a lot of people have is, because I'm working from home, am I going to be able to get these Wholesale accounts? Or are they going to take me seriously if they see, on a satellite that this is a residential home? So what I recommend is, if that is a concern, you can apply for a UPS box and use their address, or use the address they give you for the UPS box it qualifies as a commercial address. So a lot of people don't know, typically on the back of most UPS stores, you can get pallets delivered. So you could go, once it lands at UPS, you can downstack that into the trunk of your SUV, or get a buddy's truck for the day, unpack it, take it to your house, rebox it, and send those products into Amazon. Now, there's two more I want to dive into, because there's a lot of different factors here. It really depends
Yeah, because I don't want to do that. That one of my friends recommended that to me, and I'm like, I don't want to go to UPS and have to break it down or try to figure out how to get it in the back of my pickup truck. I'm like, that's going to get annoying really, really quick. For someone like me, for some other guys out there, they're like, whatever, that's nothing. For me, I can't see myself doing that long term.
Right, because you're kind of hiring yourself as a package mover at that point. You know, you're picking it up and bringing it home, and now you're doing double work. So I recommend, let's say somebody has an apartment and they want to get into the wholesale space. I usually recommend using a Amazon FBA prep center. So these are preparation centers where they are completely fluent. This is what they do. This is what they're professionals in. They know how to bundle products. They know how to make 4-packs and 6-packs. They know how to you can get 2 pallets of 2 different items, and they'll take one of each and make the variety packs that you see on Amazon. So you would just tell them how you want your product packaged. The benefit of doing that is it's 100% a commercial warehouse. They have massive fulfillment warehouses because a bunch of Amazon sellers are sending the product to them as a middleman. And you can also use those addresses on your applications. You would just call the prep center, say, hey, what are your rates? And if your rates look good, can we use your address to complete this application? The only thing to keep in mind with prep centers, there's a prep fee depending on, is it polybagged? Is it multi-packed? Are you building a variety? Does it need to go into a box? And the way to kind of account for those increase in fees is sticking to bundles or items that are kind of in the $20 plus range, where that percent you will profit on those items is not like $1, it's like $4 or $5. So you have that room to pay somebody $1.25, and you still have a lot of profit, a lot of meat on the bone left over, and you didn't have to touch any product and utilized their commercial space. It's kind of a technique I used right in the beginning before I had a warehouse is I always say network with everybody. And what I did is I went to all the furniture stores in my town, and I tried to find one where it's kind of privately owned, and like those hardcore business owners where the owner is always there. Everybody knows him. He's been working there forever. It's his company. I would go try to meet with the owner, and I just introduce myself. I tell him, hey, I do e-commerce. I'm in the process of working up into a warehouse. Like I see you guys got your docks, and you're always getting deliveries of all this furniture, which is awesome. Would it be okay if you charged me like $20 a pallet? Because they already have the employees receiving furniture, mattresses all throughout the day. There's always somebody on deck to take these deliveries. So what I did is it ended up at $30. We agreed to $30 per pallet, which is cheaper than your $50, $60 to get it to. So it does kind of go in line with, you would have to go and actually pick it up. I think that's just something you'll have to do for a while until you're shipping stuff directly to a commercial space. But the amazing thing about that is these guys let me use their address. So when they look it up, they see it's a mattress firm. They don't know if they're doing like wholesale plus mattresses. Like it doesn't bring up too many red flags. They just see it's a commercial space. They have docks, and that worked out real well because they could bring the product inside, and not every UPS store, if they were to receive a pallet, it typically just sits out back, and they might just throw a tarp over it. Unless, like, if you can't go pick it up that day. So I was running at about $30 a pallet, and that was awesome because it kind of got me over that hump to not have to worry about, are they going to look up my residential address and say, oh, we don't want to work with, people that have residents.
Yeah, because I've been actually looking around at some warehouse space. There's a website called, I think loopnet.com is a really good website to look for commercial space. There's not a ton around me. And to be honest, I don't really need it right now with my business since I'm doing mostly online arbitrage. So what I really wanted to do, Mike, was start adding a couple accounts, learn the wholesale game, reduce my risk, reduce my overhead, and then look into a warehouse space when I know this is something I want to do? And I think this is a big mistake a lot of people make with reselling in general. Even on a smaller scale, people, they go out and buy the scanner and all the apps and the softwares and new printers, and they spend $600, $700, $800, and maybe they only have $600 or $700, $800. And then after a month, they're like, I hate this. So I don't want to make that mistake. I really want to start just small on the side. So those were some really, really good tips to be able to, you know, not raise any red flags with the distributor.
Yeah, kind of. They're, you know, ways that we don't have to be like deceitful, but you also can, you know, get around those hurdles. We don't have to try to act like our residence is a commercial space when it's not. It's just like, hey, send it to this local company or send it to. So I always recommend network in your area, meet some people that, you know, there's probably some places that if you're friends with them, they might not even charge you.
Awesome, man. Really cool. Now I'm curious, as we, you know, move through this conversation, I've got a lot of questions for you. So I'm going to do my best to keep things moving here. But when someone is considering getting a warehouse, at what point did it make sense to get a warehouse space? And, you know, like maybe you can share your experience, like how much were you doing in sales, whatever you're comfortable sharing. I don't want to press you into sharing anything you don't want, but at what point could someone, like, does it make it worthwhile to have, you know, $1 to $2 grand a month or more in additional overhead, plus I'm sure insurance and everything for a warehouse? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would recommend, if you can, obviously start small. Everybody wants to say, you know, oh, but we're about to blow the business up. We need all 2,000 square feet from the beginning, or, you know, they want to see it. They want this huge space to themselves. And I would really recommend, like, you have to keep in mind, keeping your expenses low is the best way to actually make more money, is scaling slowly. I started with just a corner of that. We're at about 3,400 square feet now, but I really started with 600 square feet. It was a table with a printer, like a regular printer, thermal printer, and I would get like one pallet a week. You know, I just started very small. They charged me, it was like $600-$700 at the time, which was, to me at that point in time, I was like, this is a jump. You know, this is a big jump, having this much more. The month goes quick, so it's another 600, another 600. It did encourage me to kind of work harder and make up that difference. But to give you a rough idea, that was right around, I would say, consistently the $40,000 to $50,000 gross, and I was operating at about a 15% net profit margin. So I don't have a calculator by me, but I know it was maybe 10 to 15% of my total monthly profit. So it definitely was a considerable expense, you know, especially with like your boxes and your poly bags and all of those things and your shipping labels. Everything adds up very quickly. But just as reference, right around the 40 to 50,000 mark is like, I'm like, okay, I think I've gotten over the hump, and I can make that jump into a commercial address.
So up until that point, Mike, you were using that establishment where you had the deal for $30 a pallet. Would you just go pick it up with your truck or whatnot, and then just you bring it home one pallet at a time, essentially?
Correct. Yeah, that, or we had like a 1-car garage, so I could fit, you know, 1 or 2 pallets in there and just have enough. It was very. I always recommend in the beginning, like you mentioned earlier here, is you don't need to go all out with your, you know, like the best table setup, the best computers with the best processors, and you keep your expenses low. You can start this business on a $150 laptop from Walmart. I mean, anything that can connect to a label printer and access the internet is all you need, along with a cell phone to, you know, to make connections. You don't have to go crazy. I see people, they're like, I just bought this $2,000 brand new MacBook. And I'm like, that's going to help you. It's going to be a fast computer. But what could that $2,000 do in terms of product and inventory to get started?
Yeah, we're always looking to use money. I watch a lot of podcasts and stuff, and you hear some of the most successful people saying it's better to start a business bootlegged, because when you have too much capital, you try to use the money to solve problems instead of using creativity and innovation and really finding ways to make a dollar go a long way. So I think that's powerful, man. And you really motivated me, because I am really going to start adding wholesale to my mix. And I was just trying to figure out how to do this. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my network. And I think we all have a network, whether it's an uncle or friends or family. I've got the YouTube channel, tons of connections. I'm just going to find someone who has a warehouse, and I have a couple of friends who have warehouses in the area. I'll just pay them then to receive it, because I'm not going to be ordering 10 pallets a week, maybe just one to start,
Absolutely. Yeah, especially, and it makes it even easier if it's not a furniture store. It worked. I'm glad it worked. But if they just do like shipping and receiving, or they're like a distributor of whatever niche product they buy, or import, export, places like that, a lot of people forget that like every business that deals anything with physical product has like a commercial dock. They have to take trucks, or they have a way to unload it. Maybe they have access to a forklift to pull it off of a smaller truck. You'd be surprised. Like, we don't typically pay attention to that stuff. We just go in the store and buy something. But a lot of these privately owned companies, they already got the equipment we don't have. So, and that's what I was considering too, is for $30 to not have to own a forklift. I don't even really need the pallet jack, which that's a couple $100 when you're starting. When you first start, $200 is like, geez. Yeah, I didn't have a ton of capital when I started.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other expenses because I used to have a warehouse. My partner ended up taking over that business, but a lot of people don't realize, you have internet at your house for like $70 for internet. Business internet, they'll just destroy you. They'll charge you like $200-300 a month. Then I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but I had my local town coming in and they wanted to value everything that was in my warehouse. And I was like, why? They're like, well, we're going to send you a tax bill based on the value of all the items inside your thing. And I'm like, what? So that was an additional tax bill. Then you've got insurance. And then if you have employees, there's workman's comp. And it's like, I was not expecting all that.
A big jump for sure. Especially, once you start adding employees and you have the business liability policy. Most commercial spaces, if it's like shared or like a big facility, sometimes they'll cut it up for multiple different businesses. You can rent like you can rent the corner of it, 1,000 square foot, and they'll give you a price. Kind of like an incubator. There are places out there like that where you can just say, hey, I only need 600 square feet. How much is it going to be? And the less you take, you're going to pay a little more premium per square foot. It's just like the wholesale model, and warehousing is the more you take, a little bit better per square foot is what you're going to get, just because your overall monthly tab is going up with them.
So let me ask you, Mike, how much can I expect to have to invest to get started with wholesale? I have an online arbitrage business now. I've scaled up to 30,000 a month. My goal is to get to 40K a month by the end of the year. I'm pretty confident I'm going to smash that. Yeah. And I really want to start slow. This whole conversation, I got to thank you, man. Like, I hope everyone else is getting value. Be sure to give Mike a follow, but I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I wasn't asking you direct questions that I'm trying to figure out. So I guess my question is, for someone like myself who already has an established business, and I want to start adding wholesale to the mix, like, how much money am I really going to have to start laying out maybe on a monthly basis if I want to start, just starting with like a pallet a week. And again, selling brand name stuff like you're sharing, the Colgates, the protein powders, all the different things that we all buy and consume. Like, what am I looking at just starting slowly? Like, I have no idea.
Yeah. So baseline, I typically recommend like $5,000. And the reason being, that helps cover your softwares. You're going to have Keepa. If you want to sell on Amazon, absolutely got to have Keepa. And then I don't push any other softwares too hard, because there's just so many options. You got AZ Insight. There's so many different tools to just get the estimators, the monthly estimators. I would recommend like RevSeller. That's another cost, but they have a variation viewer to really help you with those big listings, your variation listings. But to kind of go back to your question here, $5,000 is good because a lot of suppliers will have what's called an MOQ, which is a minimum order quantity. Now, it differs from company to company. Sometimes it could be a specific number of cases, like you have to buy at least 40 cases of product. But the most common one is a monetary MOQ. So they'll say we have a $1,000 minimum purchase order, which means, if you're trying to buy $800 of product, kind of what they're saying is anything under 1,000, there's really not enough meat, or there's not enough meat on the bone for us to have our employees pick and put that order together for you. So that's why they set those minimums. And then as the higher the minimum goes, you'll actually come to appreciate that, because it is, as you grow your business, it becomes a little bit of a higher barrier to entry, which allows you access to product that you might not have been able to get a year ago. So you can get access to those products, and wholesale works on kind of a discount basis. The more you buy, the better price. So hopefully, Did that answer your question? Is right around $5,000 to start?
Yeah. One of the things I've been learning, and again, most people probably know this, but I come from the thrifting world and I've been sharing, a lot of my mistakes and challenges, and moving from like just normal RA from thrift stores and garage sales, even to online arbitrage, man, like managing cash flow is like a completely different game. Like in the past, people would ask me like, what are you paying yourself? And I always like thought to myself, like, what do you mean? What am I paying myself? I'm just taking everything home. Like, I don't have to worry about cash flow. And then I moved into online arbitrage, and I was like, oh, now I understand. Like, I just made a video. I'm at 30K a month right now, and I'm paying myself $0, because in order for me to hit my goal to get to 40K a month, like as fast as I can, when I say fast as I can, even took like almost 6 or 7 months to get there, paying myself nothing. Like if I paid myself a salary, it would take me 1.5 years to get to that point. So the point I'm trying to make is it similar to OA, where you've got to kind of push off paying yourself for a while if you want to keep growing? Because let's just say you're making a 15% margin. Let's just say you spend 10 grand, you bring home 1,500 in profit. Now you've got 11.5. Like you've got to continue to buy more products and buy more products. So is that the same thing with wholesale, where you really need to know your numbers, manage your cash flow? Because the margins are somewhat small in the sense that you've got to keep compiling them.
Yeah. So wholesale is definitely a volume game. I know OA is also a volume game, but some of those arbitrage flips you get some pretty good margins with OA. Wholesale you'll notice a lot of other sellers will, the price point on a lot of these products is fairly flat on a Keepa chart. Everybody's making about anywhere from 10% net profit margin up to, I'd say, like 16% net profit. So right around your 30% ROI on a lot of those products. So it is when you're starting to make more, and you're like, when do I pay myself? It's not uncommon when you're trying to scale this business and hit the next goal. You're like, I'm making more money, but I still have no money. How do I have no money left over? You might be maybe using credit cards just a little bit, to a couple $1,000 purchase here for your OA flips. And what I typically find is everybody has a different goal with e-commerce. Some people, it could be they want to make $2,000 a month to cover all their basic expenses. And that's where they're comfortable. And that's the cool thing about e-commerce is some people might be happy doing wholesale or doing OA at the $20,000 a month mark, 10% net profit margin, bringing in 2,000 profit. And they might just recycle the same amount of money and stick right around there to keep making their $2,000 with the same products. Now, if you are trying to aggressively scale, it's not uncommon that you're not going to be pulling a lot of profit from the business if you're really trying to hit those goals. Like going from 30K to 40K is going to take that additional spend. So you'll have to take your profits and dump those back in to really kind of aggressively hit those goals, especially Q4 is coming up. So it's a good time to, if you can, taper back from how much profit you're taking and just go full force on dumping product into Amazon on listings that are doing well for you. So I would say it took Man, I really didn't take much profit from the business for like a year and a half. I was doing landscaping, and I had a small lawn care business. I had a buddy helping me, and we had like 10 lawns we would maintain on a cycle, and I would use that money to pay for gas, groceries, rent, and then all my Amazon stuff I would just snowball, pile it back in. With Amazon being so capital heavy, I was trying to get as much capital back in as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the toughest part about this business. It is so capital heavy. And again, I never understood that. And some people might be listening like, that doesn't make any sense. Trust me, going from thrifting to OA, and I can only imagine with wholesale with lower margins, because in my business, I do a lot of eBay to Amazon flips. My margins are between 30 and 40%. So they're very, very healthy. So even thinking about like 10 to 15% margins, I'm like, man, like even when I get to 40K a month, Mike, I'm only gonna be able to pull out $5,000 a month profit if I decide not to grow anymore. That's like capping it off. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's very interesting. You really do have to, like, if you want to pull in 10, 20K a month profit, like you've got to be doing 100 to 200K a month. I would be guessing. Correct. Probably somewhere in that range, right?
Yeah, I would say if we hit, $100,000 month, we'll probably profit anywhere from like 12.5 to, depending if we get some closeouts, which are like, penny on the dollar stuff, a one-time deal, depending on what we're selling, 12.5 to like 16,000. So like a 12 to 15% running average. And you'll notice as you scale, people there's many accounts doing 10 million a year, 20 million, the volume with wholesale gets so big, they might be happy or have a different criteria. They might be okay with 8 or 9%. So, yeah. And you'll see those sellers you're looking at their price on Amazon. You're like, how is this possible? And the answer is they're just buying such insane volumes. And I'm sure you've probably noticed with your OA business is with Amazon, it very quickly becomes a factor of how much can we spend this month? A lot of people are trying to hold on to the money. I'm almost trying to hit spending goals at this point, because if the product works well, I'm like, we need to spend this amount every week or this amount every month to convert those profits. With it being 10, 15%, you have to spend a lot.
Yeah, it's like a snowball, essentially. Like the way I see it is you want to get the snowball bigger and bigger and bigger. The snowball's your inventory, but the inside of the snowball, you have to consider your turnover rate, your profit margins, your ROI. So is that the same way with you as well? You're trying to get that snowball bigger and bigger, but the inside of the snowball has to be quality, right?
It does. You have to build that foundation. And not to drift off topic, it'll be like a 30-second recap.
That's what we do, man.
Yeah. One of the topics we talked about prior to this, probably 10, 15 minutes ago, I wanted to add, we were talking about how much capital it takes to start getting into the wholesale business, or, moving over from RA, OA to a little bit more wholesale. For the individuals that they may have a very established savings, or they just are, they're like, hey, I have 25,000. Is this something I can jump into and just like blow up the business? I got all this capital I could use. And what I recommend is, even if you have an abundance of capital to start with like your $5,000 to $8,000 range. The reason I recommend this is because no matter what program you take, no matter how much when you are getting into wholesale product, you're gonna make a few mistakes. And I highly recommend make a small like break-even mistake on a $2,000 purchase, not a $20,000 inventory purchase. In the beginning, you want to make these smaller mistakes. You quickly learn from them. And then the next time you spend a little more money, that's not going to be the case. You don't want to lock up all of your good capital too early.
Yeah, I'm glad that I got into OA after thrifting, because, man, like I've made this year, man, like the first 6 months, I did so many stupid things. It's just like so many inefficient things. I didn't understand how to use Keepa the right way. And luckily in my business, Mike, we don't go deep at all. We sell mostly DVDs, CDs, books, board games, and we source it all, off eBay, Facebook, so on and so forth. And we're spending quite a bit of money, but when you only go one or two deep into a specific ASIN, you can't really get hurt too bad. But I'd recommend everybody, of course, I don't do wholesale, so feel free to disagree, but I'd recommend probably not jumping into wholesale first. I would start learning how to do books, do some OA, like learn how to make mistakes on a budget. And if you are going to jump into wholesale, like Mike said, like don't go crazy deep on things. Well, I don't know if you mentioned that, but I wouldn't go deep. Like I would try to start small.
Yeah, I always say, we have all these tools to see how many units a product moves a month. But I like to use the model, like know your products. So buy a product, test it out. The best data is your own data. How many units of the product I purchased are actually selling every day or every week? Because looking at an item doing 500 sales a month, even if there's 3 other sellers and we're number 4, we should technically all get 125 sales a month as that buy box rotates. The only problem with that is sometimes it could be we might get the 180 sales, but we also may get 40 sales our first month being on that listing. So I recommend know your products and don't go too deep into, don't overcalculate. If you're going to spend $3,000 expecting a 15% return, I would recommend use the $3,000 across different products at a lower quantity. That way you can always repurchase the ones that work, and it's not like one item, I think I'm going to make 15% on this 3,000. It's going to do amazing. It's easy to get caught up in overspending in the beginning because you're excited. You found a good product.
Yeah. A lot of my mentors, just in Amazon in general, they always say to do test buys. And that sometimes the buy box has a mind of its own. I forget who I was talking to the other day, Mike, but he told me, I think it was my buddy OA Deals. I'm not sure if he's the one who shared it with me. Somebody did, but they said that the more you list on a ASIN, like say for example, you mostly sell toys, right? And that's mostly what you sell. And on my account, I sell mostly DVDs. They were sharing that Amazon's algorithm will sometimes favor me in the buy box because it knows I'm selling DVDs all the time versus you have not really sold many DVDs. Have you known that to be true? Like if you've sold X product 6,000 times and a new person jumps on and only sold it one time, you'd think the algorithm would favor you because it has so much history of you creating a great customer experience. Amazon, that's all they care about. They want their customers happy. Do you think that's true, or maybe like you don't know?
No, that's a super good question, Raiken. In the wholesale space, I notice a direct correlation to replenishing your product on time and not stocking out. Amazon will increase your buy box percentage rotation through other sellers. Like it'll go up. You'll start getting more and more sales or more percentage of that buy box or more time on the buy box by not stocking out. So consistently having that product, you don't want to go from 100 units down to 0 for 2 weeks. And then you go, because you're kind of restarting the cycle. Is you hit 0, your product gets back in. Now you're starting it basically a new seller hopping on the listing. I've seen a direct correlation of when I stock out, my products kind of take a while to revamp on these listings that were very, very good for me. When I don't stock out, we kind of hold that, it could be 20, 30% of the buy box rotation, which is consistently just moving units every day, all day. So in wholesale, yeah, definitely. Not stocking out a product is a huge factor, and not so much of what you carry across your store seems to be a factor, but more so on a per ASIN basis. Just not stocking out, keeping those units available. If we think about it from Amazon's perspective, they want third-party sellers that always have quality product available. And you don't want to go think about a retail store. If we went into a retail store and they don't even have bar soap or shampoo, we're like, why are we at this store? They never even have this stuff. It's kind of similar on Amazon. They want sellers that are prepared for their customers.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. If I go to Walmart and I'm looking for something and it's not there, guess where I'm going? I'm going next door to Target. And then if Target creates a good experience for me, then I'll probably go back to Target again. So that makes complete sense. Let's shift a little bit because I know we're at the 45-minute mark. We might have to make this a two-part video, but let's dive into actually getting things going. We talked about what it takes to be able to get started with the business license, the reseller certificate. We talked about ways to be able to, look professional. I would even add, get yourself a business email. If you have a commercial space, definitely use that. Or we talked about other strategies to make it look, more professional.
Right.
What advice would you give for me to start contacting suppliers? How can you start? What do you say? I'm a guy who sold on Amazon for 8 years, but I don't know much about the wholesale model. I don't have any other wholesale accounts. I don't have any social proof or testimonials or a website or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. What advice would you give?
Yeah, that's definitely a big hurdle. That was one of the biggest struggles for me. I by nature, I'm just like normally, what's the word? Somebody that's like, or introvert. Yeah. So like getting on these phones was all new to me. I've been in the wholesale space about 4 years, so it's much better now and going to trade shows and stuff. But it can be a little nerve-wracking when you don't have your wholesale business established yet, and you're picking up a phone trying to land an account. You're like, do they know I'm doing resale, or I sell only on eBay right now, and I'm trying to get into Amazon or whatever. And selling anything online is better than selling nothing. So eBay's amazing, Amazon's amazing, everyone's crushing it. But the best approach, I like to ask it in a way that more so questions the supplier. Let the supplier answer your question. The main question is, do you sell to Amazon sellers, right? In a really, really good way. This will be a little gem. You should put a gem icon. Ask the supplier and say, who's your primary customer? Do you mainly sell to brick and mortar stores, or do you also sell to e-commerce? And you want to kind of put a little delay before you say e-commerce, because it just verbally, it's like, or do you kind of sell to like your e-commerce or Amazon? You're not necessarily telling them what you do, but you're getting the answer. And if they say, oh yeah, we have some e-commerce guys, we have some brick and mortar stores, do you see how they just gave us our confidence? We can say, oh, awesome. We sell on eBay, Walmart, Amazon. And a really good tip there is Amazon has the program where you can technically sell product in Canada, or, Amazon Canada, Amazon Mexico. A supplier may like to hear that is, we can do a lot with our platforms. We can distribute product not only domestically in the US, but we have customers from Canada, Mexico. A supplier be like, wow, this guy's a pretty established online seller. Little do they know, it's actually just through the Amazon's program, Amazon Mexico, Amazon Canada. But those are some tips you can use to answer that tough question of, are you guys going to sell to me as an e-commerce seller? And some companies will, and some companies just strictly don't. But I always recommend that the prime number of companies to contact is 30 to 40 a week. And I know that's tough, but that's the hardest part of starting up the wholesale business is just finding these accounts, make a big spreadsheet of their contact info, sit down for an hour or two and just call each company.
So you go direct to phone call versus doing the email approach?
1000%.
Okay, good.
If let's say you had a virtual assistant just compiling a ton of brands, or like, she comes back with he or she, like VA comes back with like 200 companies. If you want to bulk email all of them, you're going to get some replies, but wholesale is a people's person before it's a product, or it's like a people's business before it's a product business, because it's so heavily on your relationships, how you present yourself, who speaking to your sales rep consistently, getting good deals. So I always say anything you're really trying to get done, pick up the phone and call. And the way you can know that works is think of, if somebody calls your phone, You're going to look at it and probably answer. If somebody emails you, you might get to it in like on Monday or like, 2, 3, 4 hours from now. I don't check my email every 6 seconds, but phone calls are awesome.
So could we play out like a little game or a little scenario and I could pretend like I'm a company? Because I'm actually really curious what that would look like. You just got to tell me a couple things that I would have to say. So like I would be what, like a customer service agent in a sense, or would I be the owner of the company? Who are you calling?
Let's say it could be, sometimes it'll be, well, I'd say more often than not, it's like a receptionist that just takes calls. Let's say it's ABC Wholesale that we're calling, right?
No, we're calling Raiken Profit Distribution, man.
Sure. 100%. We can role play. So it'd be, I would call, you'd answer.
Hey, here, this is Steve with RaikenProfitDistribution.com. How can I help you?
Hey, Steve. My name's Mike. We run a wholesale general merchandise business out of Michigan. I saw you had some great product on your website. I'd be really interested. Do you guys have any type of application or a sales rep I could speak to kind of get more information on how this all works on your end?
Okay, great. So at that point, I would probably say, yes, we do have an application. You can find it on our website. Or maybe I would say, if you share with me your email, I could send you over the application, right?
Right. So if they say everything is online or we can email it to you, a good tip is when they're sending that application, sometimes suppliers are a little slow. So if they're doing it right then and there and they're going to send you an application to fill out, you say, hey, would you mind attaching a catalog or a general like spreadsheet of some of the products that you guys have? So do what you can right when they're doing it. Because if you call back in 2 hours and they're busy, now what we want to do is not every supplier is going to be good. So when we dive into their product, we can kind of answer the question ahead of time by looking through their catalog or running it through like Scan Unlimited. We'll scan a spreadsheet, or Analyzer.tools will also scan a spreadsheet, cross-comparing to Amazon. The quicker we can get that, we can save both parties a lot of time. There's no reason to fill out a full application if their products are all coming back at like big negative profits and their pricing is way too high.
So back to that conversation, what are some other things? And again, I'm playing, Raiken Profit Distributors. What are some other things that I might say as the person on the other line? Will I say, well, are you an Amazon seller? Or will I say, well, can you tell me a little bit more about your business? What are some common things that I'm going to have to prepare for and the viewers are going to have to prepare for making that phone call? What are some of the scenarios?
So I typically, when I call a company, I don't say too much about Amazon or e-commerce unless it's brought up, right? It's okay. We need to do our research on Amazon, make sure we can sell these products. You don't want to be selling brands that you can see have a big drop in number of sellers on a Keepa chart. That's an indication of like IP complaints. But it's almost kind of in your favor if these companies don't really bring up Amazon or e-commerce. You get access to their whole catalog, and once you buy those products, it's kind of at your discretion what you do with those. If they don't talk about, hey, this can't be sold online, or hey, we need to give you this certain spreadsheet for only e-commerce, I just roll with it. If they give me a full spreadsheet, I'll make a purchase order on what I like, and we'll go about it that way. But what it kind of differs. What they typically say is, we have Jim, he's in the office. He may be your sales rep. I'll transfer you over and you can talk to him. And you guys can kind of bounce back and forth between any questions. And most of these sales reps or receptionists are pretty good with, you can ask them, do you guys sell to e-commerce customers? Do you have any current e-commerce customers? Are there any brands that we shouldn't really be selling? And as I mentioned, if it never gets brought up, kind of roll with it. That might work out in your favor, getting some of those awesome products.
Yeah, because from some of my friends and mentors who do wholesale, they say you're going to get a lot of no's. And I'm just curious why they would say no. Like, I understand, like, they're trying to like protect the brand and whatnot, but I'm trying to figure out what are the types of conversations that I'm going to get myself into where they would be saying no.
Sometimes it just is what it is. If they just have a policy where they don't sell, they don't want, you got to remember, suppliers suppliers are always going to appreciate their relationship with the brands and their purchase, like who they buy from. That's going to be a stronger relationship than who they sell to. They are not going to, if they work direct with Colgate Palmolive, a huge corporate company that has all your Colgate, all your Palmolive stuff, if they work direct with them, they're not going to let somebody come on, toss those products onto Amazon and lower the prices down to little to nothing and ruin the reputation of that brand. So those are kind of more, I could talk an hour, those are more advanced tactics as to how we approach those scenarios. But for the most part, there's usually not too many questions. You just explain, hey, we run a general merchandise wholesale business. I like to say we also have the means to use e-commerce platforms, so we can purchase a good amount of bulk product from you guys. So if we're going to talk about Amazon, let's talk positively and say Amazon allows us, because we're established on e-commerce, we can place some pretty big quantity orders with you guys if we can get to an agreeable price point. So there's usually not too many questions.
That's good news.
Yeah, I think it's a little intimidating, but a lot of people overcomplicate it in their head. It's pretty brief. It usually is only a 1 or 2 minute conversation. Hi, this is my name. Nice to meet you. I like the products you have on your website. Do you guys have an application process, or how do I move forward with placing an order?
Yeah, and that's why I really was much more interested in this model versus big shout out to the Wholesale formula, Dan and Dylan. They're really good friends of mine. You've heard of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're big wholesale sellers, and their method works really well. I've gone through their program. It's awesome. But with their program, you're like building relationships with the brand. You're having to add a lot of value. Like you're having to find like ways to essentially incentivize them to you're really having to work closely, and like you're on these phone calls, like pretty much trying to persuade them to sell to you, which I feel like can probably be a lot more lucrative, like having those exclusive deals. But for me, I'm just like, I don't want to dive that deep into working directly with a brand. Like at this point, I just want my money to work for me. And I think there's pros and cons for that. So that's actually really motivating, Mike, that you're only really having to jump on a phone call for a minute or two. I'm sure you could spend more time and add more value once you get more advanced, but for beginners, that's great news.
Yeah. Anytime we're calling and offering to buy product, a sales rep is going to make a commission on that. They're happy to sign you up. And if they say, hey, we aren't really looking to take any more e-commerce accounts or any Amazon sellers, I like to just kind of like slow the conversation down and say, if let's say his name's Jim, just say, hey, Jim, I totally understand that. May I ask, is there a specific reason, or did you have a bad experience working with somebody prior to this?
Yeah, we have tons of bad experiences. Amazon sellers we're getting a lot of complaints about products being destroyed. We're having issues with our pricing, and it's just been a really bad experience for us.
Yeah, I totally understand that. A lot of new sellers that come onto the platform, they're still learning the fee structure on Amazon, and they may be, tanking prices and ruining the reputation of the brand. I want to ask you guys, would you be open to send over a catalog with the MAP pricing in mind, where we would stick to only the MAP pricing of these products and make sure your connection with the brand is very strong, and we'll pass down that reputation of these brands onto Amazon. We can also, to add value to you guys, if this would work out for you, we can let you know and report sellers to you that are violating MAP policy of these products, and you can simply just email that document over to the brand. That way you guys can get these other sellers off the listing who are violating these pricing policies. And approaching it that way is you see how I just set the bar up here, as we are not an entry-level Amazon. We'll look at the listings. If anybody's violating any policies, we can report those to you. And that's a really good way to set yourself apart.
Yeah. And that's what Dan and Dylan were teaching in the Wholesale formula. Like you could even go above and beyond. I'm sure in the beginning you don't want to do that, but down the road, because 1 or 2 accounts can make you a bunch of money. you can improve their pictures, you can improve their keywords in the back end, you can improve their titles. And again, you know, even myself, like I understand it all, but I've never had to like actually do that on a specific listing just because I'm piggybacking on listings. But man, like having those skills and like getting brand registered for them, like I'm sure there's like a list of like 1,700 things you can do to add value when the average Amazon seller just like, kind of like in relationships, like you have a big TikTok and you have a big social following and stuff. How many people, like happens to me all the time, will like people will start a relationship and they're just like, gimme. And they don't even like try to add any value at all. Like anytime I get into a new relationship, I'm always trying to add value because I never want to be that guy who's just trying to take. So by doing that, you're probably differentiating yourself from like 98% of all Amazon sellers.
Yeah, absolutely. Try, you know, any approach other than just the approach you do not want to do. And I can guarantee you're going to get a lot of no's. You might get like one yes here and there, but to significantly increase your you know, what's the word? To significantly increase your chances of landing these accounts is don't just pick up the phone and say, hi, Steve, thanks for talking to me. Can you email over a full spreadsheet with pricing and an application, please? They're going to be like, okay. They're like, whoa, hold the phone. Like, who are you? Where are you calling from? What type of business do you run? You know, some basic information. Like, think of in real life, you're not going to go up and shake someone's hand and be like, do you want to be my girlfriend? It's kind of like that.
I go right in for the kiss, man. I don't ask any questions.
Hey, maybe it works for some.
No, not for me. No, not for me.
Yeah, anything we can do to differentiate ourselves, maintain brand. But like you mentioned, those guys with Wholesale formula, those are some of the real advanced. The level just goes up and up and up and up and up when you start going. You know, I have some real tactical ways to land these accounts. There's some accounts I work with that sell to zero e-commerce companies. There's some ways to do that. Opening. You know, selling to local privately owned stores, buying for them. So you can say we work with local companies and we buy wholesale. You know, there's all these back route ways to get top tier product. But that's kind of a totally different video.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, and I hate to, you know, keep going crazy on this topic, but I think it's so important when they ask you like, what type of business do you run? I'm sure they ask you directly, well, tell me a little bit, Mike, about your business. How do you best answer that? And again, I like how you started off the conversation. I forget exactly what you said, but you asked them an open-ended question to kind of get them to spill their guts in the beginning. Like, do they accept e-commerce? But if you find yourself in a situation where they're like, Mike, well, tell me a little bit about your business. How do you answer that?
Yeah, the first approach, I like to say, introduce yourself, your name, your company name, and I say we are local wholesale distributors out of this area within your state, which is true. If you're ordering your product and you're shipping it to yourself and you're based out of a certain area, that's the most professional way to explain it, because essentially wholesale is we are general merchandise distributors or wholesalers. Distributor might be the wrong word because that's kind of who we're buying from, but you know, I like to say, you know, we service this area, and you can say that with confidence if you just go into a couple stores, privately owned companies, and say, hey, if I ever get a good deal on this, do you want to work together? I could sell 5 cases to you. If you just make 1 or 2 connections, you're not lying at all. It's not deceitful. You have a couple local stores to where you could say, hey, we distribute product in the Central Texas area, the Central Ohio area. That's a really good way. I don't know if I went off topic again.
No, that was helpful. No, that was good, man. That's exactly what I wanted to know in terms of how you introduce yourself and how often are they going to really dig into like exactly what you do? Like, do they want your storefront to Walmart, to eBay, to Amazon? Is that something that I'm freaking myself out about?
I would say a little bit. I would say most of the applications, I don't really see that. You did send me the questions ahead. I want to touch base on the website question. Do you have to have a website to be this like big distributor that they're going to open the account up for you? I've been doing wholesale for about 4 years, and I still don't have a website to provide for anybody. The way, if they really ask that, I either don't fill it out on the application. It's not a big deal. I just say, most of our connections are, we do sell through e-commerce platforms. And if we do anything outside of that, like just wholesale product in our local town or, the cities around us with some local companies, that is mainly just on a cell phone or email basis. We don't really have a hub like you guys do with a big website, established, I wouldn't say, don't say not established, but we don't really have a website set up. And a good way to talk positively on why you don't is our inventory comes and goes so quickly that by the time we upload it, it's either out the door or sold.
Interesting.
And they're going to be like, well, companies are like closeout companies. They have very weird websites because their inventory is in one day and somebody buys it the next day because it's like half price. So that's the best approach. If they bring up, are you only e-commerce? I say, yeah, but this is good because we can, do the Canada, the Mexico spiel on them. We have access to, and you could say with Amazon, they send our product all over the United States. So we have access to so many different fulfillment centers all over. And if they don't know too much about Amazon, that might seem like, wow, this guy's actually like really established, where the truth is we just send it to one and they move it to all their stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's powerful. So the whole goal of this is you're setting up your business, you're getting your warehouse, you're contacting everybody. The whole goal is to then get the catalog, to get the prices. And then ultimately we could talk about making some deals and whatnot, but the whole goal is to get the catalog so you can run it through your software, find the winners, and then purchase the item, right? Am I correct? Is that kind of the flow?
Yeah, correct. And then a level up beyond that is sometimes I like to look at if a product is showing a 0% profit once we use like analyzer.tools or Scan Unlimited. Wholesale Inspector is actually transitioning. I think they're merging with Analyzer, but I know some people are familiar with Wholesale Inspector. It's all the same tools. It's a software. You upload your UPCs and prices, and it connects it with Amazon and calculates your fees and your profit based on your Excel spreadsheet pricing that they give you, like the catalog they provide with prices. One of the approaches I like to do, and I use a VA to go through a lot of my spreadsheets.
Oh.
Very time consuming. I will actually set some of the profits to 0% margin. And you might be like, Mike, why would you do that? That makes no sense. What I typically find is a lot of 0% margin products are those really heavy shipped and sold by Amazon only items. And we just can't compete with those pricing. However, a lot of those products, if you were to manually search for just the item description, let's say Colgate Advanced White Toothpaste, you will find 2-packs, 4-packs, 6-packs that are dominated by FBA and merchant fulfilled sellers, and Amazon is like nowhere to be found. And you may not have picked up on those if you didn't sort the spreadsheet to 0%. When you do that, basically what you're doing is you're picking 0% and sorting it from simply sales volume. I want to find the fastest selling product because we're going to manual search this, and I don't even care about that exact listing. I want to know what's the fastest selling brands that this supplier actually has.
So then you're essentially doing a manual search on Amazon to find that listing. So say you can get some type of Colgate product for $1, and it doesn't make sense to sell it as a individual. You're trying to find that 6-pack that sells for $23 or something, right? Where you're able to make your margin that way because the spreadsheet's not gonna share the multi-packs, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's only the spreadsheets are those scanning tools are incredibly powerful. There's a lot of, I call it like your 1-for-1 items. You might find a toy for $7 that sells for $20, and you can just simply make $3-4 on it. It'll just tell you this UPC matched with this UPC. However, when you're trying to grow and scale the business, that can also kind of be a drawback because it kind of puts you into a box where there are, if you just Google or not Google, but search on Amazon, Colgate toothpaste, there's going to be multiple listings for each there's going to be 4 listings for the advanced white. Then there's going to be 3 listings for the kids Colgate. And it's all the same product, but our scanning tool is only going to pull up one listing, maybe two, that match the UPCs. That's all it's doing, is matching those UPC codes. So I would say, honestly, like 80% of my products that we sell are probably bundles, variety packs, items like that. And the UPC on the listing is not the UPC on the product. It just, if it's the same product, it's the same product.
Dude, that's a gem. We got to put the gem. We're going to have to, my video editor, put the gem up right here. That's a gem. That's huge, man. That's a great way to differentiate yourself right there. That's, damn, dude. Thank you. That's a big one right there. So once you find some deals and you're running the numbers, we're going to probably end this show right now in the next couple minutes, because we're getting to that point. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but what's that process look like once you find some winners? Do you have to essentially just call back your sales rep and place the order? Like, what does that look like, placing the order and like paying for it? And like, are you having to set up with like a freight forwarding company in a nutshell?
Yeah. So you can, it really depends. That kind of goes back to your fulfillment method. Are you using a prep center? Are you,
shipping to myself or shipping to a warehouse down the street from my house, essentially?
Sure. Well, I'll just do like a quick 1 minute recap of how the order would work, because I know we're getting tight on time. But you find the items you want, right? I recommend open a blank Excel spreadsheet, you want to put the information, what the supplier provided, within their spreadsheet. You want to kind of make it look the same, and you'll just copy and paste it's rows, right?
Yeah.
Copy and paste each row of item, and then I would just put one column that you type in that says like units requested or cases requested. You can submit it as, I want 5 cases of this, and you'll put like 5 of these, 2 cases of that, 10 cases of this, or sometimes you might just be ordering. We have some suppliers I work with, we only carry like 2 SKUs. Not every company, we might get like 2 from here, but like 50 from another one. But we'll still order the 2 because they're good. From there, you would email that to your supplier, because we don't want to assume their stock. Like, we don't know if they have they have the product, but it might not currently be in stock. So I like to send them an email and name the Excel spreadsheet, your business name _ PO request. You're requesting this as a purchase order. They can dive through it, and they'll probably reply back adding their own column that says units available. And if you put like, we want 100 units of this product, they might put 70 because that's all they have left. Or they might put units available 1,000. They can easily fill your 100 units. So that's pretty standard. And then you guys would kind of do a final revision. We'll take these exact quantities. You'll get a total. They will send you a pro forma invoice, which is the invoice before the final. Usually the final invoice that just says invoice is after the product leaves their facility. And just a small little touch, when you're getting approvals on Amazon, you cannot submit pro forma invoices to get brand and category approvals. It has to be the final invoice.
Wow. Oh, that's great. I'm speechless. That's fantastic. And are they going to quote you on the shipping, or are you going to have to set up shipping yourself?
Yeah. So let's say, for example, we are shipping to our house, just to make it, I think that's probably more common. People are just going to say, hey, I want to open these accounts and start getting product. We can ship it to my house or condo, whatever. The most common way is you can ask them for a quote on the freight. My preferred way to do it when I first started was using like Unishippers or Freight Quote. Basically, all they are is a broker. You get assigned a sales rep with your account, and you'll have their office phone number. They'll send it at the bottom of an email. You'll get their office phone number and their email. Easiest way to do this is when your order is, you pay for it, usually wire, ACH, or credit card with a small fee. So you pay for your product when they confirm the totals. From there, we need to move on to shipping. They might say, it'll be a couple days, we'll get your order put together. From there, I always like to, because I was using my home address and I didn't want them to back out of a deal because it's residential. So I and this was before I used the commercial spaces. So I'm talking baseline right in the beginning. Don't have any connections yet. I would call my rep at Freight Quote and say, say, hey, they provided these dimensions. We have one pallet, it's 48 by 40 by 65, and they're telling me it weighs 900 pounds. And they'll give me a quote from the supplier's address to my residential address with a lift gate.
Gotcha.
Very simple.
Okay, I've done that before. Yeah. It's a fun experience.
Yeah. Why I like that approach in the beginning is because it's something that we can do to look a little more credible. Because what you can say is, hey, what's a good day to have one of our partnered carriers to come pick this up, or or you could say like, hey guys, don't worry about the shipping. We'll have one of our trucks come get it. It kind of puts you up here again.
Gotcha.
Instead of, hey, I need a quote. I don't know how to ship anything,
Well, thank you, man. That was the process. That was a lot of information, man. I'm sorry for bringing you on for so long. I couldn't stop asking.
The wholesale model is not something, when I make these 1-minute TikToks, man, it's like, it pains me because I have to leave so much information out. TikTok's like a 1 minute, 30-second clip. And there really is so much to the wholesale model. Like you've mentioned, you've had mentorship and coaches. You could talk for 5 hours of every nitty gritty detail of how this works and how to optimize your business. And it really is so much.
Yeah, that's why I'd recommend, guys, to kind of wrap things up, for anyone interested in starting this, start networking. Mike and I, we just met on Instagram recently. He, he said, what's up? And I was talking to him and I was looking at his post and I was like, man, what do you do? And we started talking. I'm like, let's just come on and chat, man, and build a relationship. And networking is key in this business because you can't learn it all from a TikTok. You can't learn it all from an hour and 15-minute video. So if you guys want to learn more about this, go check out Mike. You do have a free Facebook group as well. Is that still going on?
Yeah, it's completely open. It's the One Up FBA. There's spaces, one space up space. And it's not the number one, it's ONE, just like you see on my name display here. One Up FBA public group. It's dash public group. There's about 3,400 members in there. It's a great community. It's anywhere from intermediate current sellers to new sellers looking to get into the wholesale model. The whole site, or the whole Facebook group, is really around specifically the wholesale model.
Awesome, man. Well, I'll be in there as well, so you guys feel free to tag me and whatnot. But give Mike a follow. Again, guys, TikTok, Facebook group, and Instagram. I'll link it all up down below in the description. Any final words for the people watching?
Get started. If you're not started, like Steve Raiken was saying here, start with like used books. Get some type of scanner. Start with used books. You get a good margin on those. Maybe transition into a little RA and OA. Wholesale can be an intimidating jump. If it is intimidating, get the ball rolling with some of those easier entry points where you can just get access to product without jumping through so many hoops of wholesale.
Awesome, Mike. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.